What is up, guys? Welcome back to Switch 2 Next Gen. If you're tired of the mainstream hits, we're diving into 15 hidden JRPG gems that deliver some of the deepest storytelling on the console. From tactical police thrillers to games where your choices literally manifest as cards, these narratives will haunt you long after the credits roll. Ready to discover your next obsession? Let's get into it. If you tell me a single developer spent years crafting a massive retro world filled with political intrigue and customizable mechs, I am throwing my wallet at the screen. That is exactly what we got when Chained Echoes dropped back in December of 2022. You control Glenn, a skilled sky armor pilot navigating a war-torn continent. Instead of traditional leveling, you progress using grimoire shards, and combat features a brilliant overdrive meter. You have to constantly balance your skills to keep the needle in the sweet green zone to avoid overheating your squad. It completely respects your time too. The game fully restores your health and magic after every single fight, meaning you never have to waste hours managing resources. Plus, the reward board constantly hands out goodies for completing creative tasks, ensuring exploration always feels worthwhile. Next up at number 14 is S Libra Revision, which landed on the Switch back in November 2023. They really did not have to go this hard on a side-scrolling action role-playing game, but this time-traveling epic is an absolute marvel. You control a nameless hero and his talking crow companion, Charon, searching across time and space for a lost childhood friend. I usually get bored of repetitive hack-and-slash combat, but the tactile feedback here is glorious. Every single strike features a brilliant hit-stop mechanic, a tiny micro-stutter that gives each blow an incredibly weighty physical impact similar to Hollow Knight. Combined with massive skill trees and intense boss fights, the gameplay loop is pure gold. Now, a few players have pointed out that the writing can be a bit of a mixed bag, with some raunchy humor and dialogue sequences that feel pretty out of place, but if you can look past those narrative speed bumps, the sheer depth of this action-heavy journey is unmatched. I normally dread committing 80 hours to a dense political thriller, but the way this game respects your time makes it impossible to put down. Coming to the Nintendo Switch back in September 2022, The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero drops you into the shoes of Lloyd Bannings. You are leading the Special Support Section, a ragtag police division tackling odd jobs and uncovering a massive criminal underbelly in the corrupt, politically tense city-state of Crossbell. What makes this turn-based JRPG shine is its tactical grid-based combat. Positioning, area of effect skills, and devastating team-up attacks are absolutely critical to surviving. You also get a highly customizable quartz-based magic system to tailor your party's stats and spells, but the real game changer is the brilliant high-speed mode. At the press of a button, you can crank up the velocity of both exploration and combat. It completely eliminates the tedious grind, allowing you to focus entirely on one of the deepest narratives on the system. Coming in at number 12, we have a game that launched back in autumn of 2018, and it completely flipped my view on grid-based dungeon crawlers. Labyrinth of Refrain Coven of Dusk puts you in the bindings of a literal living book owned by a notoriously sadistic witch named Dronia. I usually get overwhelmed when an RPG expects me to manage a massive roster, but the way this game organizes your forces is an absolute masterclass. Instead of micromanaging individual characters, you utilize the Coven system. You assemble a massive brigade of up to 40 puppet soldiers, dividing them into specialized groups called Covens. Each Coven acts as a single unit on the field, and their unique spells, known as Donum, and stat bonuses are determined by the specific soul packs you assign to them. It turns combat into a brutal, high-stakes puzzle of formations and soul management. It is dark, delightfully bizarre, and brilliant. Coming in at number 11 is a game that hit the Nintendo Switch back in October 2019, and it is a masterclass in refreshing turn-based combat. The Alliance Alive HD Remastered drops you into a fractured world ruled by demonic overlords, following 9 different characters trying to spark a revolution. What makes this journey so incredibly satisfying is that it completely ditches traditional level ups. Instead, your stats increase dynamically after battle, and you awaken new weapon skills mid-combat. But the absolute best part is the high-stakes ignition system. When you trigger your ignition state, you can unleash a devastating final strike for colossal damage. The catch is that doing so permanently breaks your currently equipped weapon. That single tactical choice forces you to constantly weigh raw power against your hard-earned resources, and it makes every major boss fight feel like a brilliant high-wire act. Coming in at number 10 on our list is a title that completely caught me off guard. I usually get exhausted by bleak war stories, but the emotional stakes here are handled with absolute mastery. Released back in July 2021, Fuga Melodies of Steel puts you in control of a group of anthropomorphic children piloting a colossal ancient tank called the Tyrannus to rescue their families from an invading empire. You manage these kids across different weapon stations in tactical speed-based combat. But the absolute gut punch of this game is the Soul Cannon. If you find yourself in a truly desperate situation, you can fire this ultimate weapon, but it demands you permanently sacrifice one of the children to do it. It is a horrifyingly brilliant mechanic that turns tough battles into actual moral nightmares. If you just want to experience this devastating narrative, there is even a fast mode that bypasses standard combat entirely, turning the game into a 5 to 10 hour visual novel. Coming in at number 9 is the Caligula Effect 2, which landed on the Switch back in October 2021. This game completely hooked me with its premise. You are trapped in Rito, a virtual high school simulation created by an idol named Regret to help people escape their real-world trauma. You lead the Go Home Club, a group of students desperate to break free and return to reality. The combat here is brilliant, featuring the imaginary chain system that lets you preview the timeline of your actions to predict enemy movements and execute perfect counters or air juggles. But the real star is how music elevates the fights. Every dungeon features an instrumental track by a boss musician, which seamlessly transitions into a full vocal version the second you enter battle. Once you beat them, you unlock their song to trigger special moves using your voltage gauge, letting you customize your battle soundtrack. It is an incredibly stylish, dark, psychological ride. Coming in at number 8, we have a game that marries two genres in a way that just clicks. I usually get incredibly bored with standard farming simulators, but Harvestella absolutely hooked me by dropping a high-stakes, apocalyptic JRPG mystery right into the middle of my crop rotation. Released back in late 2022, this gem puts you in the shoes of an amnesiac protagonist trying to survive Quietus, a literal season of death that threatens the world. You balance daily farm life with real-time dungeon crawling, switching jobs like fighter or mage mid-combat to exploit enemy weaknesses. And the developers actually respected your time here. Instead of locking you into agonizing tile-by-tile watering animations, they gave us a space-age watering can that lets you walk freely while watering. It makes the daily chores incredibly fast and fluid, leaving you plenty of time to unravel the dark secrets of the giant seas lights. Coming in at number 7 is Anunnaki, a beautifully tragic action JRPG that released back in August 2019. You play as Kagachi, a watcher whose literal day job is shepherding lost souls into the afterlife. I am always down for a story that tackles grief and reincarnation head-on, but what really hooks me is how that premise bleeds into the combat. Instead of traditional party members, you bind with spirits called demons. These act as your job classes, granting you everything from scythes to spears with their own skill trees, and you swap them on the fly mid-battle. But the real kicker is the veil mechanic. With a single button press, you seamlessly shift between the living world and the beyond. It is not just a visual trick, it instantly alters the map layout, swaps your enemies, and drops entirely new environmental puzzles on you. It forces you to constantly adapt your strategy in real time, making the boundary between life and death feel incredibly tangible. Landing at number 6 is a gorgeous tactile adventure that feels like a tabletop session brought to life. Voice of Cards The Isle Dragon Roars launched back in late 2021 under the creative direction of Yoko Taro, following a self-serving protagonist named Ash on a quest to slay a newly awakened dragon for a royal bounty. Everything in this world, from characters to environments, is represented by physical cards. I usually get bored of standard turn-based battles, but the tactile feel here is incredibly cozy. While some players were initially expecting a complex deck builder, this is a classic RPG wrapped in a gorgeous tabletop aesthetic. Combat relies on a shared pool of mana gems generated each turn to activate skills, with actual dice rolls determining your final damage or status effects. It adds a brilliant touch of tabletop unpredictability that makes every skirmish feel absolutely rewarding. Coming in at number 5, we have a title that released back in 2022, but still absolutely commands your attention. I usually get bored by retro-styled turn-based games, but the sheer political tension in Ryza the Third Power is a masterclass. Set in the fictional land of Rin, you guide 8 distinct characters on a high-stakes mission to prevent a second global conflict, But where this game really shines is how it refuses to let combat feel static. They did not have to go this hard on the battle mechanics, but the dynamic mid-battle party swapping is genius. You can have one character apply a brutal bleed effect, then immediately swap in an ally whose abilities are specifically boosted by that status. This focus on tandem attacks and clever synergies makes every single encounter a thrilling tactical puzzle. We are at spot number 4, and it is time to dive into something wonderfully dark. I am usually skeptical of games that lean heavily into gothic melodrama, but Crystar absolutely hooks you with its bizarrely brilliant gameplay loop. Released on the Switch back in 2022, this action JRPG follows Rei Hatada as she battles through purgatory to save her dead sister. The standout feature here is the torment system. As you hack and slash through enemies, you accumulate emotional trauma. To clear it, you literally have to go back to Rei's bedroom and cry. Crying purifies these torments, crystallizing them into powerful armor and equipment. It is wonderfully tragic. On top of that, you can swap between 4 different playable characters on the fly, each summoning their own spectral guardian for massive, devastating attacks. This adds a great layer of strategy to the combat. It is emotional, fast, and criminally overlooked. Stepping into our number 3 spot is a delightfully twisted experience that crawled onto the Switch back in late 2019. Mary Skelter 2 turns the traditional dungeon crawler into a tense psychological horror show, and I am absolutely obsessed with how bizarre it gets. You are trapped in the jail, a living, breathing, malevolent prison that literally feeds on humanity. To escape, you control Atsu and a cast of fairy tale-inspired blood maidens through nightmarish corridors. The turn-based combat relies on a brilliant blood splatter mechanic. Paint your party in enemy blood to trigger a devastating massacre state, but let them get too corrupted, and they go feral in blood skelter mode. Thankfully, your companion Nightmare Jack can manage that corruption mid-battle, but the real genius is the blood flower system. You actually plant flowers in the dungeons and splash them with Marchand blood earned from critical hits to harvest incredibly rare gear. It makes exploration feel incredibly rewarding. Taking the runner-up spot on our list is a masterpiece that completely throws out the traditional JRPG playbook. I am talking about SaGa Scarlet Grace Ambitions, which landed on the Switch back in late 2019. You do not get traditional towns or dungeons here. Instead, it is a pure laser-focused world map experience with 4 wildly different protagonists like Urpina and Leonard, but where they really did not have to go this hard is the combat. It features an incredibly deep timeline-based battle system. The absolute star of the show is the United Attack mechanic. If you strategically manipulate the turn order and defeat an enemy sandwiched between your party members on the timeline, you trigger a massive coordinated strike that absolutely obliterates the field and slashes your skill costs for the next turn. It turns every single encounter into a high-stakes chess match. It is uncompromisingly hardcore, and that is exactly why it earned this spot. And finally, sitting proudly at the absolute top spot of our list is a masterpiece that captured my heart on day one. Am Setsuna launched all the way back in March 2017 as a Nintendo Switch launch title, and its beautiful, melancholic, snowy world has lived rent-free in my head ever since. You play as a mercenary guarding a brave young woman on a tragic pilgrimage to sacrifice herself to appease monsters. I usually dodge bleak games, but this journey is an absolute masterclass in classic active time battle combat, relying heavily on battlefield positioning for double and triple team attacks. The Sprint Knight system works beautifully here, letting you slot in magical stones to customize your abilities just like Final Fantasy VII's Materia. Combine that with the momentum system, which rewards you for timing button presses to trigger bonus damage, and you get a brilliant experience elevated by a gorgeous, minimalist piano soundtrack. And that's our list for 15 hidden JRPGs with deep storytelling on Nintendo Switch. There are so many incredible hidden gems out there, and we know we've only scratched the surface. Did your personal favorite make the cut? What did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more RPG deep dives. Here are some more videos of ours you can watch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.